Hey guys, welcome back to Firebird Fridays. Today we're going to finish tearing down the 350 motor that came out of the 67 Firebird. If you missed the first video, I'll put a link up to here or there or someplace, I don't know, wherever. Click that to watch the first half. This will be the second half, tearing down the other head and then eventually pulling the pistons out and the rod and the crank and the cam. So stay tuned. Let's finish tearing down this motor so we can find out what the hell we're going to do with this thing. Let's go. All right, guys, let's go ahead and tear down this other side of the motor. As you see, remember last week we tore down that one side and didn't find anything too out of place or too interesting, although those pistons were super clean, and kind of concerned a little bit about that idea. So let's go ahead and take off these head bolts. We'll get those off here in a second. I think with the amount of gasoline that this thing was just dumping down the through the carb and into the intake and into those heads, I think that's what cleaned it off so well. All right, so here we go. Let's pull this head off. Position this camera. Notice the two short bolts on the outside and the longer bolts in the middle. We'll go ahead and get all those small ones out. And off comes the head. Oh, yeah, gotta tap that a little bit and get that to move for us. There she comes. There she goes. Now, kind of zoom in there. Once again, look how clean the tops of those pistons are. But again, the water jacket and the water channels in that block definitely are just all cruded up. Go ahead and pull all these lifters out real quick. Put them in bags. Each one, numbered them up. Get those going for us. So I'm looking for a set of either Vortec heads or a pair of 350 heads. And that's kind of what I'm thinking I'm going to put on this motor. Next, I'm going to take off those motor mounts. I'm actually missing a couple bolts on both sides, so I'll make a note to get more bolts for that. Now I'm going to take off the other side. And then next, we'll get to that oil pan. And here we go. We'll start taking those off. The four corners are a bigger bolt head than the rest, and the rest are all 13 millimeter or half-inch heads. I do believe that's what it was. We're going to get this pan off so we can get a look at the bottom end of our 350 here. And as you can tell, it's a 4-bolt main, which made me super happy. So we have that. I'm going to take that harmonic balancer off before we can kind of progress forward. Let's kind of give you guys a look here. At first glance, it doesn't look that bad at all. So I don't see anything out of the ordinary just yet. And a little closer. Again, a weird smell though, really bad oil burn smell. And as you can see, there's the 4 bolts. So it is a 4-bolt main on those. And let's go ahead and we'll take off piston number 1 real quick here. Thought I'd loosen them up, give those a shot. Get in here, and yep, torqued on. So I just took my old shooter bar there and just loosened up all those rod nuts, holding on those connecting rods, kind of spinning it around a little bit, breaking those off. And yes, again, I'm doing a voiceover only because you can see that swamp cooler back there. It is hot as crap here in July in Phoenix, Arizona. I think it was 110 today. And trying to look at those bearings there, they weren't too bad. Get those out. And again, we know at least this thing was somehow doctored up with those 305 heads on it, but I don't know if it had ever been torn down all the way. I think maybe they just pulled the heads, slapped on those 305 heads to give it higher compression, kind of a thing to do back in the 90s, and get that. So I'm just kind of moving this crank around, just kind of wanted to break the torque on those bolts. Kind of get one piston out here just to kind of see what we're dealing with. And line those up, keeping those bearings together so I can kind of see if I can see something. Get in here and just continue to take the torque off those. Little by little. And again, those bearings that each time I pulled off a bearing cap, it didn't seem that bad. I was pretty amazed at that. I figured those things would be pretty warped. They're not warped, but scarred up and kind of marked up. but most of the wear on them was pretty even. Go ahead and get a little closer here for us. Get in here and get this. Alright, while I'm in there, go ahead and just break torque on those mains as well. So I thought I had the correct dampener puller, or for that harmonic balancer puller. Alright, let's get this sucker on, and we'll pull this harmonic balancer right off so we can get to those timing chain, and we can pull this crank out of the way for us. And bam, bam, bam. 3 bolts. Put the center one in, and get it squared up here for us. Go ahead and get my cordless impact. Bam, look at that. Took the cover off as well. Next thing, just go ahead and pull that gear, and it will, a little bit of effort, just kind of slide, and we'll get that chain off that cam. Come on, come on. There it is. All right, chain is off. All right, put the bolts back in the cam so we can pull it out in a little bit. Go ahead and move that. A little bit of a tap, zoom out for you guys. Go and just tap on that first piston, out it comes. Match everything back up. That way I can put it all back together if I choose to use those pistons after my machine shop takes a look at this block and everything. So we'll just go through and we'll pull out each one of these pistons, making sure I keep everything together on the right direction. And again, the only, I think it was cylinder number 7, if I remember correctly, was the only one that had any broken rings. The rest, all the rings were good. So it was probably that one piston that was letting stuff kind of flow by, and that's why it was smoking so bad in that, in all the videos that we had. So go ahead and we'll get this crank out of the way, and up she comes. One more. And I should get it on this one. There it is. There it is. Get that last bolt out. Trying to move the crank around so I can get all the bolts for those connection rods undone. And finally, got it out of the way. And seemed like this stick did the best job of pulling those pistons out of there. So go ahead and get all that done. Tap, tap, tap. Here she comes. Like delivering a baby. I'll go ahead and get all these taken care of and lined up. I'm hoping, I don't think that it's ever been bored over. I took a look at the back side of the bearings. There was nothing to indicate that it was, 10th over, 20th over, 30th over. So I'm thinking the bottom end was not touched. They just simply swapped off those heads. Got the cam out. A little bit later I'll show you the cam up close. You guys can kind of give me your opinion on what you think about that cam. And go ahead and inspect those mains. And then I just kind of wanted to clean up the cylinders, kind of get a look for them. Go ahead and get those kind of felt around. There's a lip at the top, about a little bit more than a 1/4 inch on all 8 bores. There's the close-up of that cam. Kind of see some wear on those. A little bit uneven, I think, on a few of them. But then again, I'm not sure about Chevy 350s. If this was a Porsche motor or a Volkswagen motor, I'd give you a better understanding. And then we'll take a close-up of the crank here. Go ahead and get that in this place here. And then it's towards the end is when I noticed some not so fun stuff. You can see there's really etched and dug into the metal there. And then at the end, we'll see that last part. And it's a pretty deep groove or a scratch. I mean, I could take my fingernail and definitely feel it. You can see that big one right there. That one there was the worst of the worst, I guess. That's a huge chunk out of that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the inside of the cylinder bores. All right, as you can see, there's a little bit of a lip right there, probably about a 1/4 inch all the way around. Best I can see, this thing has never been bored out from all indications. However, we'll get it to the machine shop, let those guys take a look at it. But other than that, they seem pretty good. There's again, it's my biggest issue I think with this motor was the water jackets and ports around the block that were just filled with gunk from the cooling system. So that's one thing we'll have to address. But I think other than that, if we can go board out just a little bit, get some new pistons, get some new 350 heads on there, and put this back together. I think we got an engine that's going to run our Firebird. Each cylinder is almost the same. I don't think any one cylinder was different than the rest. Here's a look at these pistons. Let's see if I can get a close up here. In good shape. I can still see kind of the original manufacturing process. Doesn't seem too bad. And again, only one piston had a broken piston ring, and I believe that was number 7 when I pulled it all apart. Let's see, guys. Here's a look at that bearing, and all indication this is a factory bearing that from the factory, so it's never been touched. I'm the first person actually, I think, on the bottom end to pull this thing apart. And it's not too crazy scoring, and pretty typical, pretty common. And then here's the inside of that cap. Again, you can see it hasn't been machined either. I guess my video reverses things, but